my dad sacrificed so much. And that alone, that guilt, can sometimes keep someone from being open to exploring their generational trauma. I want you to consider for a moment that two opposing things can exist at the same time. Hi, this is Ann Sherley, licensed marriage and family therapist located in California. Today, a topic that I think is important for us to talk about is generational trauma. Generational trauma is an extremely heavy topic with many, many layers. What I'm hoping to focus on a little bit today is sharing some of the shame and stigma that may be associated with it, trying to hold space for why it's important to acknowledge generational trauma, explore generational trauma, and what change can happen in your life, in your family's life, if you're able to truly acknowledge that trauma and take steps forward in changing it. So first, and just, the first thing I really want to just focus on is the amount of shame that can come from acknowledging generational trauma. Something that I oftentimes hear is individuals will immediately jump to defending their parents and say, no, my mom did everything for me, or my dad sacrificed so much. And that alone, that guilt, can sometimes keep someone from being open to exploring their generational trauma. I want you to consider for a moment that two opposing things can exist at the same time. The generational trauma happened and it impacted you, and your parents at the same time did the best that they could for you. Now, once we're able to hold space for that and take a step forward, sometimes there's still that prevent, that shame, that feeling like, gosh, am I bad because I participate in some of these things? Or am I bad because, these are perspectives that I carry in my relationship? The goal is not to judge or to shame. The goal is to learn, to self-explore, and to understand. Now, what I would like to do, and hopefully this maybe makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, is, I can share a little bit about my own experience. When we look at generational trauma, the approach that I like to take with my clients is doing essentially a genogram, looking at the family dynamics, the relationships, the unhealthy patterns, and having a base foundational understanding and knowledge of that. And then learning about the narratives and stories about your family and how they came to be and how they came to function. So going back, into me exploring my own family history and experiences, my father specifically, he came from a really challenging background with low socioeconomic status, and really just struggling to have basic needs met. With that, something that he experienced is really needing to be in a state of constant anxiety and fear. What that anxiety and fear presented as is being constantly cautious and concerned about those around him, and concerned that those around him were going to be out to get him or out to harm him or do him wrong. So essentially, right, this kind of perspective of like sleeping with one eye open, being really aware, not trusting people. So for me, I didn't have awareness about that at the time. All I knew is my dad would constantly mention things like, hey, be careful with that person, or don't trust anyone, or carry something for someone. To me, it almost felt a little bit like a paranoia. What I didn't realize, right, as time continued and I got my first job, I noticed that I had a really challenging time trusting my colleagues and peers to do their part of a job or an assignment. I genuinely felt like I couldn't trust anyone to do their part, and I had this constant fear in the back of my mind, like they're not going to do their part because they're going to want me to look bad, or maybe they don't care about it, or I just can't trust them. And so what that ended up looking like is I would be taking on all these additional tasks and stressors that I didn't need to take on simply because I didn't trust the peers around me. Now, through my own therapy, through my own just research of my family history, understanding some of these narratives and where they came from, I got to make those connections with like, oh my gosh, my dad went through this. This is why he had to have this perspective. Okay, understanding this now. Oh, he taught this to me because he also wanted to make sure that I was safe. But me in my current environment, I am so fortunate to not have to have those same challenges that my dad had. And although, having some caution with peers is important, the amount of anxiety that I had wasn't necessary. And once I was able to truly understand that and make those connections, I was able to be more intentional about my anxieties and my stress with my peers, being able to trust my peers and being able to work better in group settings and with peers. So really it made me function in my relationships in a healthier way. It helped reduce my anxiety. There were endless amounts of benefits to that for my own personal life. But then turning that around, right? And I know something that's really important for us is also like, how do we bring this back home to make healthy changes with our family? I was able to have healthy conversations with my family and challenge that perspective. If something came up and they went to that place of, oh, you can't trust this person, I was able to help and answer, okay, well, maybe, but maybe they were just having a bad day. Or, maybe there was a misunderstanding. Or maybe if we would have given them the opportunity to do the assignment or follow through or show up, they would have shown us that they are someone that's trustworthy. And again, the most important thing here is if you take the time, although it's painful, it can be long, it can be emotionally draining. If you take the time to truly understand the generational trauma, understand what those before you experienced, the messages that they provided to you, understand how you interpreted and applied those messages, and look at what are the useful parts of this, what are maybe the dysfunctional parts of this, and with that knowledge, make an informed decision about how you want to move forward in a healthier way and how you want to change that message so that your family is in a better position moving forward. Talk to you soon. Please like, subscribe, and follow.